Now let's talk about alignment and distribution, how to use them, why it's important, and how to practice alignment with Figma, how to become a super efficient and super fast with alignment when it comes to Figma. Well, what is alignment first? First of all, alignment is when the elements have a clear relationship to each other. I would say geometrical relationship to each other. What does it mean? It means that our brain can select two elements and can create a clear line, clear relationship between these two elements. Or maybe not two elements, but more than one element. Or when you see the element and you understand how it relates to other elements on the screen. Let's take a look at this screen that you see right in front of you right now. What do you see here? You see the heading, alignment and distribution, then you see horizontal, vertical, text alignment and distribution. Then you see this square right in the middle of the frame, and then text alignment, text. As you can see, they're all aligned right in the middle of the screen. There is an alignment, there is a center alignment between all these elements. But at the same time, these elements could be aligned to the left edge of the screen or the right edge or to the top. That's exactly what alignment is. We need, well, not we, but we as well. We users, visitors of the websites, and we designers need alignment to make our brain's life much, much easier, because in this case it will be much easier for the brain to understand how elements relate to each other. But we, as designers, have to know how to work with alignment with Figma to become efficient and, just to become a better designer. When you know how to use alignment, when you know how to use shortcuts for alignment, you will be much faster and more confident than any other designer. I'm talking, of course, about confidence, not only about if you know alignment, then you become super confident rather than anyone else. No, I'm talking about all the previous lessons that you already learned, everything that you will learn in the future modules, and the future lessons of this module. I'm talking about all these things. When you know them, when you master the tool, then you have more space for your design mindset, for your design thinking. And by design thinking, I mean not the design thinking framework, I mean the actual design mindset. The tool should become just a tool for you, because what defines a great designer is not how the designer uses the tool. Well, it defines. If you don't know how to use the tool, if you are too slow with the tool, if you are not confident with what you're using, if you are not using shortcuts, then in this case you spend too much of your time, too much of your brain work, too much of your energy on the things that matter much less than what exactly behind the design mindset, what exactly behind the design thinking. Let's get back to our lesson about alignment and distribution. First of all, when it comes to alignment, we have to understand that there are six directions in which we can align elements to. And these directions are left, top, right, bottom, horizontal center, and vertical center. 6 types. How does it work in Figma? Let's switch on the Figma panel. And here, remember, if you remember that here in the design panel of the right sidebar, we already discussed all the panels except one. At the very top here, we have this small panel with 7 different icons. And all of these icons are related to alignment, and the additional one, the 7th one, is related to distribution. What is that? And now let's do that, let's practice. First of all, let's take a look at them. We have align left, align horizontal centers, align right, align top, align vertical centers, and align bottom. This is how it works. This is just as simple as that. But what is cool here, and I recommend you to learn it immediately, when I hover on each of these icons, I see the caption that says align left, but at the same time it gives me the shortcut how to launch this, how to run this actual function in my design. So here I selected, when nothing is selected on the screen, you don't see the alignment option because we don't have anything to align. But when I select the element, then I see this panel here. And in this panel, as you can see, there is a shortcut that shows me that if I press Option A, if I'm on Mac, and if you are on Windows, then it will be Alt plus A to align element to the left. Now I want to tell you, it's super fun. If you've ever played any video games on your computer, you know that to move up, you press W. To move down, you press S. To move left, you press A, and to move right, you press D. A, S, D, W. Remember that buttons if you played ever. If you've never played, just keep them in mind that they work like arrows. A, S, D on your keyboard and W work the same way as arrows on your keyboard, like left, right, top, and bottom. A, S, D. And Figma created the alignment exactly following this structure, so that's why it will be super fun and fast for you to learn these types of alignment, like left, top, right, and bottom. And when it comes to horizontal centers alignment and vertical centers alignment, in this case, you'll just use horizontal. The first letter is H, so it will be Option H. Vertical alignment, vertical centers alignment. The first letter is V, which means that Option V, or Alt V if you are on Windows. Now, how alignment works in Figma. When you select just one element, and use any of these buttons for alignment, this element will be aligned with a parent element. So right now here, I have this red square. And now if I press left alignment, then the left edge of my element, of my square, will be aligned with the left edge of the frame. If I press right alignment, then my right edge of the element will be aligned with the right side of the frame. The same with top and bottom sides, and when it comes to the middle one, the centers, then it will work with centers. So let's press on this button, align left, boom, it's aligned. Now align right, aligned. I select element, align top, done, align bottom, done. Now, if I press align horizontal centers, it's right in the middle here. We take width of the element divided by 2. We take width of the square divided by 2 and find the centers and match them. This is what called align horizontal centers. The same with when we take height of the element, height of the parent element, divide the heights by 2, find the center and align vertical centers. Boom, it's right. This element is right in the middle. Super easy and fun to use that. Option A, Option D, Option W, Option S, Option H, Option V. Just follow this exercise. Create the frame on your screen, create the rectangle or create any element on the screen and play with that. By default, the element was in the center, but you can put it wherever you want. If you want to put it in the middle, Option V, Option H, it's in the middle. If you want to align it to the top, Option W. Want to align it to the top right corner, Option W, Option S, Option D, and now it's in the top right corner. This exercise will help you a lot to practice the shortcuts for the alignment. And at the same time, you know, when something is fun, your brain understand that, oh, actually I wanna remember it. I wanna use it in the future, so it's better for me to memorize it. Okay, so do this exercise first. Now, I already explained you that if you select just one element, then it will be aligned to the sides of the parent element. In this case, as you can see, I have the square itself and the parent element is the frame itself. If I put this square inside of the group, Command G, now it's inside of the group, and now when I select the rectangle inside the square, inside of this group, and when I press Option A, Option D, Option V, Option S, just anything, as you can see, nothing is changing. Why so? Because the parent element for the rectangle, for the square, is group. And the group is exactly the size of my element, which means that the square can't move outside of the group. It will be aligned to the edges of the group. That's why it's not moving. Keep it in mind. So if alignment doesn't work, check if you have a parent element and what is the relation to the parent element. There is what I want to say. Now, when you select the group itself, now you can move this element. Now you can put this element whatever you want, like Option A, Option W, Option S, Option D, Option H, V. Now it's in the middle. Because we are now aligning the group, and for the group, the parent element is frame. This is how it works. Now, additional things that I want to mention here. This was the first part, when you're selecting just one element. But when you select multiple elements, like here, then the elements will be aligned between each other. But before we do that, keep in mind and remember, always remember, about the text alignment. We already discussed text alignment in one of the previous lessons when we talked about the text tool, but keep in mind that text itself, by itself, if you have the outer width for the element, then the box itself will be the size of the text. But sometimes you have not the outer width, but you have outer height. Remember about this? And in this case, the width can be different. And the text will be aligned to the edges of the borders. So if I set the left alignment, the box is still the same. And the text will just jump inside of this box. The same works with the fixed width sizes. If I set something like select the text and make the box for the text bigger, then we have left alignment, center alignment, right alignment. We can also set align middle. It will be right in the middle of the screen. Align center, and we can put align bottom. So basically the same stuff, but only when we have fixed sizes, fixed width and height for our text box. This can be useful when you're creating, previously when we are creating buttons. So when you create a button, let's imagine like this size, and then you take the text, you put the text on the box, and if you want your text to be right in the middle of the screen, you could do this. That's it. Today, when you have auto layout, you don't have to think about it at all. But what's cool about knowledge about the text alignment? When you select multiple elements and some of them are text, some of them are not, and you start playing with the alignment here, as you can see, like I press Option A, everything now is aligned to the left. And you might be thinking, but it's not. Well, but it is. Because the left edge of the text box is here, the left edge of the square is here, and the left edge of this text box is also aligned. So basically everything is aligned here. If you want your text and elements to be perfectly aligned between each other, always keep in mind that for the text, you are using different shortcuts. Command Option L for left alignment, Command Option T for mid alignment, and Command Option R for the right one. Now the text is not aligned with this element. Why? Because this is where the edge of this text box. I wanted to show you all these elements because lots of people, like juniors, mid-level, and even some senior designers, don't know about these things, or at least they maybe know about them, but every single time they spend a little bit more time to understand what's happening. When you see something like this, just keep in mind that probably there is a box for the text that doesn't allow you to align elements properly, and in this case you will need just to check the text boxes themselves. So now when I have all the text aligned to the left, now as you can see, everything is perfectly aligned. Like the text aligned to the left side, then this square, and then this text. Cool, right? But this course is, is not some surface level course. I'm sharing here with you design secrets, Design Pro secrets, Figma Pro secrets. This course is advanced, and I want to show you some additional things that most people don't know. And I want you to know them. So, one additional thing that I want to show you. We have this text, and now if I start using like Option D for the right alignment, Command Option R for the right alignment of the text, now everything is right aligned between each other. This is what's important to understand. When you select multiple elements and use alignment tool, the elements will be aligned between each other, so to each other. But what if, let's align everything to the left edge. What if you want to align everything to the parent element at the same time? As you can see, I aligned everything to the left, but now what I can do, I can hold additionally, without the shortcuts in this case, but additionally I can hold Option, and now as you can see, the alignment icons change their shape. You see that in the top right corner? They changed by holding Option. Option means you have other option. On Windows, Alt means alternative. You have alternative option for something. So by holding Option, you have alternative way to align elements. And now I can align all these things to the left edge of the screen. Holding Option, click here, and boom, everything is aligned to the left edge of the screen. This can be super useful when you're designing any like magazine or website, and you want your elements to be aligned, maybe not to the edge of the frame, but you want your inner frame to be aligned to the left edge of the main frame, of the main container of the website, while the elements inside will be aligned just between each other. That's why I wanted to show you this additional option that you can keep in mind. So you can do that. Command Option T, Option H, Option, and align center, and now everything is exactly in the middle of the screen. I don't need to move it. Remember, just think about it. Option H, and now for me to align this element to the frame, I have to, previously probably, you had only two options. The first one is manual, when you move the elements using just the touchpad or mouse. Or you group this element, Command G, and then Option H. Now this group is aligned to the center of the frame. But what if you don't want to use the group? In this case, that's exactly what you could do. When you have something somewhere here, Option, center alignment, that's it. Cool, right? Yeah, not so many people know about that. Just a few. but you know. Awesome. So we discussed all these things. Now, one additional thing, distribution. What is distribution? So when you select some elements together, you see like when, and you hover here, you see this additional icon with 3 lines. And it doesn't show you any, caption that shows what does it mean. But basically it's the same thing as here. In the top right corner, when you select just one element, this option is inactive. But when you select 2 elements, or more than 2, like 3 elements, no matter how many, but more than 1, you have this additional option called More Options. When you click on that, you see Tidy Up, Distribute Vertical Spacing, Distribute Horizontal Spacing. Now, when I click Tidy Up, what it will make? It will it will create the same space between elements. So we have 3 elements, we have 2 spacings between them, and these spacings will be equal. It creates equal spacing between elements. I click Tidy Up, and now you see that I see additional handles here, lines, and these lines show me the spacing 253. And the same I see here in the top right panel, and I can change the spacing. Let's imagine I want the spacing between these elements to be 40, just 40 pixels. 40, enter, and now this is how it works. I select all elements together, option, align vertical centers. Now everything is in the middle of the screen. Cool, right? Just a couple of clicks. Instead of manual dragging, understanding how they relate to each other, in just a couple of clicks, you achieve the perfect alignment. This can be specifically useful when you're designing presentation and again, websites, specifically sections of the websites and mobile apps. We will use all these things later when we'll be working with websites and mobile apps. The next thing that I just wanted to show you that this is the spacing. You can play in Figma. Figma has a really cool feature that you can change the position of the elements. You see? Just by dragging, when you select multiple elements, again, more than 1, you can drag and change the position of the elements. This can be super useful when you're creating when you're creating sections of the website. And then when you know all these things, Command Option L, Option H, now Option left of the screen, Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, for example, and boom, you know exactly that everything is perfectly aligned to the left edge, and the distance between all these elements and the left edge of the frame is 100 because we pressed Shift and pressed nudge is 10. You already know about nudge, how to change that, and now we see the 100 pixels distance there. And now it's a completely different section from what we started. And I did that in just a couple of seconds. So that's why my recommendation for you, start watching this lesson from the very beginning. Do all the exercise that I recommended for you to do. Start with the element in the middle of the screen and then start using and practicing shortcuts. So you will master your shortcuts for alignment. Then create text, master your alignment for the text. Then select multiple elements and start aligning them together between each other. Start creating a relationship between them. And then in addition to that, select multiple elements and by holding Option or Alt, start playing with these options that will allow you to align elements on the screen the way you want them to be aligned. Looks cool, right? It already looks like a professional slide for a presentation. And as you can see, I haven't moved anything manually except just a couple of seconds when I showed you the manual option that I don't recommend to use when you know all these efficiency tips. All right, So we discussed all these things. When it comes to additional things, distribute vertical spacing, distribute horizontal spacing. Distribute horizontal spacing, it's similar to like alignments. When you have like a few elements and you press distribute horizontal spacing, boom, the spacing between this element, horizontal spacing between elements will be equal, and you can change it. When it comes to vertical distribution, so you have multiple elements, you press distribute vertical spacing. Now the spacing between all of them will be equal. And now when we use alignment, boom, now everything is exactly how it should be. So keep these things in mind. By the way, yeah, I used alignment, but because before that I used distribution, now I have spacing between elements, the same, the equal spacing between elements, and I can change it to whatever I want. These can be used, for example, when you're designing, let's imagine icons, and you have one element, then you create like two elements, then you can align all of them to the left edge, then tidy up, change the spacing between them to 4, no, not enough, 10, perfect. And this can be your Command Option G, alignment to the right side, and this, for example, will be your menu icon that will, when you click on that, you will see additional like right sidebar menu. That's not the perfect UX. We will talk about UX for the mobile apps and websites a little bit later in the future modules, but that's just an option. So keep it in mind that you can do that. One additional thing that I want to show you in this lesson, alignment and efficiency, create multiple elements on the screen and start practicing all the alignments features with just the shortcuts, so you know what exactly will happen when you do all these things. And this will make you much more efficient designer than ever before, because just in couple of steps you will be able to create really fun and cool designs. I use manual option here, but Option H, Option V, that's it, it's in the middle. Command Option T, Command Option H, now it's in the middle. And this is how it works. Just a couple of seconds, we created this design out of just chaos elements. A little bit later, somewhere in the future, I'm thinking to create something really cool about design psychology. And I want to show you how to use design psychology to think like a designer. And yeah, to be super efficient and confident in absolutely every single decision that you're making. So you will know also why you are doing something and why you are doing it this way, and you will be able to explain it to clients, to managers, to CEO of your company if you're working, for example, in a startup. So they like, no, let's do that this way. You're like, no. Look, here's the thing behind this decision. And then in a confident manner, you will be able to discuss that and explain that. But that will be somewhere later in the future. For right now, go and practice alignment and distribution, so you will be able to create amazing, incredible designs super fast and easy in just a few clicks. And look, pum, 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 and out of the chaos, we have an organized and structured design. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. And it will be really a super cool lesson where that will give you the start for creating design systems. Yeah, while we will create design systems much later in the next modules in web design and mobile apps module, the next lesson will be super essential for that. So see you in the next lesson. Oh, I was waiting for this lesson. You know what? The knowledge of this specific thing that we'll discuss today will help you to create design systems, style guides, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a content creator, or you're a web designer, or mobile apps, or TV apps creator, entertainment systems. It doesn't matter. If you understand how to use styles, and if you design a lot, and if you want to be more efficient in your skills, then it's better to know how to use styles. And if you are thinking like, well, I'm a content creator, I'm like, where I will use styles? Well, you will be able to create your own typography system, typography style guides, and color style guide that will allow you to change colors and fonts like this in just one click for all the projects that you are creating. And if you are making money for designing, by designing content for other content creators, in this case, you will be able to have the same typography style guide for all these projects. But if something has changed for one client, just for that client, you will change the design system, not the design system, the typography style guide or colors style guide, and that's it. And that's it. For all other clients, you'll have everything as it is, but for this specific client, you'll have something different. And this is how it will work. It will work like this. In just one click, you will change all the fonts and styles. Let's talk about them and let's learn how to create the styles and how to use them. Well, the styles, you can create styles in Figma for multiple things. You can create them for typography, for colors, for grids, and for also effects. How does it work? Well, you see here the example of the things. So we have the typography, really simple, small style guide. Then we have the color system. Then we have some like drop shadow here. Then we have drop shadow for this element, but for this element we have glass effect. And here we have glass effect similar to this one, but now this glass effect has also the shadow below to make it a little bit like, because we have the white background here, without the shadow, it will not look as cool as with it, with this shadow. And we also have the grid here. All these things can be converted into styles, and styles in Figma work like components, but they work like on the on the background, like on the back end. But they are components for typography, components for colors, like components for grids and components for effects. Let's start creating styles. We'll create one style for each of the element, and later in this course we will create some style guides for everything that we'll be doing. For content creation, we'll create a style guide for Instagram posts. When we'll be working with web design, we'll create a design system that will include all these different styles, all these different like fonts, colors, grids, and effects. When we'll be working with mobile apps, we'll do the same there. So basically, yeah, that's super cool. Super powerful feature. So in order to do that, let's create a frame, and you can follow me here. So I'm just creating a random frame, random size of the frame, and I start typing. We'll start with creating styles for typography. Typography styles, and later you can create the typography style guides out of these styles. In order to do that, you should have text first, and for that I'm creating text here, and this text will be font style. Font style right now is Helvetica ULT Pro. This is the typeface that I use for almost everything in my designs, but it's a premium typeface. Probably you don't have one. So that's why I'm going to change it to something different, like IBM Plex, but sans. Oh, you know what? Let's go with serif. IBM Plex serif. Where is that? Here we go. For the size, I will use 60. For the weight, I will use medium. And for the Letter spacing, I'll use -4%. -4, oh, I pressed the wrong button. Font style, and you know what? Let's change it to heading, because then we'll know exactly, heading 1. We'll know exactly what we are creating this style for. Now, this is just text. And if we want to change something with it for this text, we go here and we change it for each element here. And if we have this element somewhere else, then we'll create everything here again for this element. But what we can do, we can select the text. And do you see these 4 dots here? And it's called style. When you click on this style, you can search for something, you can browse libraries if you have one, but by default, if you just started working with Figma, you don't have them. And then you have this plus icon. And when you click on that, you see Create Style. You click, and boom, you see an additional model screen that says Rec 1 to 3. Basically just shows you how it's the preview of this typeface that you chose. And here you have name and description. Name, new text style, and description, what is it for? And for the name, you can type heading 1 or just simply H1. And for the description, what is it for? Well, if you're designing it just for yourself, there is no need to create any descriptions. But if you're designing it, if you're working in a team, or maybe you're designing something you're creating, and one of the deliverables that you're giving to your clients is a complete typography style guide, for example. In this case, it's better to write down that this particular style will be used only for headings 1 of the text. So in brackets, you can show that title, comma, no more than 1 element of this style on the page. Because there should be, and there can be, not there can be, but the rule of thumb that there should be only 1 H1 per page. You can have multiple H2, multiple H3, but only 1 H1 per page. We'll discuss it later. Basically, it's all covered in Typography Masters course. But heading 1, that's it. If it will be enough, if it's enough for the client, that's it. If it's enough for your team, that's it. If you want to go really with huge description, you can do that. Here you have a button Create Style, but you also have a button Show More Options. When you click on Show More Options, you can basically make the changes directly from here. Hide Options, Create Style. And boom, the style is created. Now you don't see all those basic options like choose the font size, choose the font weight, choose the letter spacing, choose the line height, choose the typeface itself, the font family. You don't have that option. You just have H1. But what's interesting about this thing? When you create another piece of text, here, and if this text by default, let's imagine you create somewhere a paragraph that is really small like that, and it's written with Inter, or you took that text, this text from somewhere else, or you are changing everything in your designs completely, and now you understand that this should be H1. So you created that style. So you select another text. Now it's a style. You select this text. You go here in these 3 dots, style. And now you have the option to select the style. And you click on this option, and boom, this text takes the style that you created for the H1. And you can create as many styles as you want for each size, for each weight, for each letter spacing, for each line height. So you can do that. You can create multiple styles, and then you will be able to apply that styles to all the text on the screen. And if you want to detach the style, then you just simply click here, detach style from the text. And now you have the option to bring everything back into 20 regular, for example, -2%. And now you can create another style out of it, and it will be, let's imagine, paragraph, create style. And now you have heading 1 and paragraph. And now when you create some more copy, let's imagine that you brought it from somewhere else, and by default it was 50 and Roboto, like that. So now you have two texts here, and this will be heading and this will be paragraph or body 1. For heading you choose the style H1, for example, and for body 1 you choose the style of the paragraph. Done. In just one click the style has changed. Another thing, how to change. Let's imagine that you want to make changes to the style that you created. By the way, if you are changing the style somewhere, the changes will be applied to all the elements that have this style. So let's imagine I have H1 here, style, but when I select it and I go and click on this element here, and this is how I can change it. I hover here and click Edit Style. I click on Edit Style, and now let's imagine I want it to be bold. I change it, and as you can see, this style changed as well. I want it to be 48 point size. Enter, and now it has changed as well. I want it to be 120% line height. Enter. Now it's 108%. So this is how you can edit it. Another option to edit fonts, if you don't want to select the element, click on the element and go and edit. What you can do, just click outside of all the frames. So deselect everything, select the canvas. And on the right side, in the right side bar, you will see local styles. And here you see all the styles that you will create. Text styles, you will see color styles, you will see all styles here. And here you can click and change the styles too as well. It's a little bit faster and easier to change them here rather than going and selecting elements. So I want to show you different options so you know exactly what to do. Yes, while it's more like for at least mid-level designers, not even all the senior designers know about these things and features, or it takes too much time for them to do all these things. I want you to know all of them. So now when you know these things, and you see this plus sign here as well, create style, how will it work if we are not creating anything or we are not selecting anything? When you click on create style here, you can choose what style you want to create. And let's imagine that you want to create a color style. You click here, and by default, Figma will provide you the option to create style from here. This option is specifically great if you are already efficient designer, no, not like efficient designer, if you are already like a high-level designer on a really high position, and let's imagine like principal designer, staff designer, and you know how design systems are working, and you already know in your head what styles you will use. And instead of going and creating all the typography style guides first and then go creating those styles, you already know what styles you want to create. So you simply click on the canvas itself. You click on the plus icon and start creating the styles here. Let's create the typography style guide. Let's imagine we have a background. We're creating just a light theme. You know what? Let's call it just white. It will be easier for you to understand rather than naming them used for backgrounds on the light theme and text on the dark themes. It doesn't matter if you're creating it for yourself, but if you want to, find the way to describe them if you work with other people. And properties, you press select white, done, 100% opacity, create style. Now you have color styles white. And you can create more styles, black. And for the black, we will use 111, not 000. We don't want pure black. We want something grayish a little bit. Black, create style. And then you create another style that we will call something like gray, that we will use for our text, for example. And for that, we will use 76, 78, 7A. And now it's gray, but with a little bit like bluish accent, like this. Yeah, I named them this way because I already understand how RGB colors work and how to work in these pairs. But if you don't know them, just simply click on this button, use the HSB, HSL, or RGB or hex codes. So it will be whatever works best for you. Create style. And let's create another style, color style, and let's call it accent. I called it accent, not like a particular color here, because let's imagine that for 99% of all of our designs, we will use just 3 main colors, and the fourth one will be our accent color that can be different depending on what project we are working with. So that's why I just called it accent color. And for the accent color, I will choose something blue, something like from this palette. Create style. Now we have 4 styles for colors, and you see all of them here, but how, like, okay, we have them, but how can I use them? How can I apply them? Well, now when you select absolutely anything, when you have, for example, a rectangle here, that will be, let's imagine, our image in the future. Alignment. So we have rectangle here, we have text, and we also have, I don't know, let's imagine that everything is inside of the frame, another frame. When I select the rectangle, I click here and I choose accent color. When I select text, I click on the fill because we are applying the color, and I choose black. For the another text, for the paragraph, because it's paragraph, I choose gray. And for the entire frame, I use fill and white. And let's imagine that our color for main frame is gray. This is how we created all the styles before, and now I have this design here. And what's cool, that now if I decide to make any changes here, to change this typography, for example, to Gilroy. Oh, I don't have one. Okay, I removed that before that. Okay, the Gilroy is here, and for this one, I was, oh, you know what? Maybe you don't have Gilroy, so that's why let's change it to Poppins. Definitely you have Poppins. Or Montserrat, no matter. And not extra bold, semi bold. Heading 1, Poppins. For the paragraph, I'm gonna use, let's imagine, Poppins as well, just for these purposes, just for this design. Poppins. And now you have everything perfectly changed here. What's also cool, that now what I can do, I can change the accent color to anything else. I click edit color, click in properties here, and now when I change it here, it changes in the design. Everywhere, absolutely in every single place where I created, where I used the accent color for the element, it will change the color. So if I take and use the accent color for text, when I change it in my styles, it will change everywhere as well. in just one click, in just one, in this case, slide or drag, I can change the entire feeling from the design just by changing just one parameter, just one style. This is super cool thing. Practice with it, create some styles, and you will see how cool is that. It's just mind-blowing, mind-blowing. And later in the future modules, we'll use this and we'll create these styles for different objects. So you will be able to see much more, beautiful, more beautiful options for all these things that we are creating. We'll use, a little bit like rounded corners, some, instead of this weird stuff, we will use some, editorial, beautiful pictures. So we'll create like real designs that you will be able to use in your works, in your mobile apps, in your websites. Great. And let's imagine that here you will have the button, all these things. But because you already created the styles, you know how everything works. The next thing that we're gonna create, we'll create the style for our frames, for grid. Layout grid, and you can create it right from here, plus grid. And for the grid, we will use grid columns, 12 columns, stretch, margin 200, and Gata will be 40 or 30 pixels. And the color, I want the color of the grid to be like gray, grayish, bluish, like that. Create style, done. And you're like, wait a minute, but where's that? Now when I select the frame, here, instead of creating the grid by clicking plus sign, I click these 4 dots, style, and I choose grid, the style that I just created. And boom, I have 12 columns, and the distance between the left edge and the first column is 200. And the distance between 2 grids is 2 columns is 30. I could do it directly from here. Columns, 12, stretch, 200, 30, and a different color here. That's it, done, as a style itself. But now I can convert, if I already have grids, I can convert this into a style. So I click plus, and for this one I'll create a presentation, create style, create it. But when you're creating the presentations, usually for the presentations, I recommend you to use something like 7 columns. The distance from the sides is margin is 0, and you have 7 columns. Well, now in this case, let's use 100, and Gata, whatever you want, it can be even 0. So you just have lines here. But because it's a little bit hard to see them, so I'm gonna change the opacity to 40. So when I have perfect grid for the presentation. And when I use why I use 7 columns instead of something divisible by 2, just because it allows me to create the design that has asymmetrical design option, the design style that allows the design look a little bit more interesting and playful. So we have a little bit more on the left and a little bit less on the right, or we have a little bit more on the right and less on the left. But now we have this style, and when I select, for example, this previous element, previous selection, I can click here, styles, and use presentation, and boom, the grid style is applied to this element. And the final thing that we haven't discussed yet is the effect style. Well, let's imagine that you have this element here. And for the elements, let's set the rounded corners, Command P, Unsplash. You already know how to use that, how to create that, because I already showed to you before. That's a really beautiful rabbit, but I'm going to use something minimal, something different. But also I want to see the something, yeah, like that. We have an image, Control G to show and hide the grid. We have an image right now and it doesn't have any effects. And by effects I mean no drop shadow, no inner shadows, no layer blue, no background blue, but we can create some. So we create here effects plus drop shadow. Here we change the parameters to something like 80, 80, minus 20, minus 40. And here for the color, I'm gonna use, I never use black, as I already told you, because there are no pure black exist in the world. So I'm gonna use a little bit like purplish blue. Done. And that's it. So I just created the drop shadow effect. And let's imagine that I have another shadow element here without anything. No, you know what? Not copy, but I'll create another image here. 40. Command P, Unsplash, choose minimal, something meaningful. Not bad. Something like this, perfect. So I have this additional image here, but now I can select this element here, click on these 4 dots, style, plus. When you already have style and you press plus, you create this style. When you create this style from scratch, then you will have the option to create and change the parameters. And here I'll use drop shadow main, something meaningful for you. It can be also just drop shadow, or it can be elevation. It depends on how you decide it within your team. Elevation 4, for example. Maybe you can have like 4 different steps of elevation, and the further it's from the screen, the more blurred the shadow is on the background. Elevation 4, create style. Now when I select this image, I just go here, effects, click, and choose elevation 4, and boom, I have shadow. I select this group here, effects, no, styles, elevation 4, and I have drop shadow here. And I can go whatever you want. This is also create as an image, effect, styles, elevation 4, create it. This is how you do that. This is how you create all these elements. If you want to create that glass effect, well, in this case, you create a rectangle, remember, right? So something like 40 in this case. Select both element, option H, option V, alignment. Color, white, background, transparency 10%, effects, click, background blur, click here, 40, maybe 50, done, and boom, you have glass effect, but it doesn't have that reflection, you know. So that's what, in order to do that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click on local styles, press color, and for the color, for the properties, I'm gonna set click here, but instead of solid color, I'm gonna change to linear. That goes from white to white, but the first white has transparency 100%, the last one is transparency 0%. Close, create style. Yes, you can create styles for gradients. Create style. Now I select this element and click style for stroke, not for the fill, but stroke. For the fill, I will not use white because we have 10%. We can create it as a style if we want to. So here, I click here and click, as you can see, weird name. I'm gonna change it to stroke gradient, glass effect, you can call it, color. And I select stroke gradient, change the size to 4, and boom, now you have this beautiful effect. We will create more glass effects and all these different features in the graphic design module of this course. Now you created this background blur, but it's not the style. So I press style, plus, and previously we had elevation. Here we'll call it glass effect if you want. Create style. So now when I create the element here, the color FFF 10%, yeah, it's better honestly to create the style for that. It would be better. For the stroke, I will choose stroke gradient, so you already see that, right? And it already looks cool. It already looks like something. If I change the background here to something semi-transparent, like half transparent, we already created super amazing, beautiful effect. But when we change it to and add the glass effect, wow, all the magic happened here. In addition to that, you can create additional styles for effects. So you will achieve this effect here, like with the inner shadow inside. As you can see, just by in a couple of minutes, in a few minutes, we created styles like text styles, we created color styles, we created effect styles, we created grid styles. We can use grid style for our for this design, for example. Instead of presentation, I'm going to use this grid, 12 column, and I will align everything accordingly to the grid that we just created, you know. So 4 columns for this element, these will be aligned. Now I select these 2 elements and make them a little bit bigger. I can do the same but smaller for this element. Now everything is perfectly aligned to the grid that we created. And we have all the effects, and these effects work perfectly for absolutely anything. As you can see, shadows, glass effect, typography, colors. How cool is that, that you can just select the element, change to this, and change the fill color to accent, and then you can change the accent color to any other color. For another client, for example, you're working with blue, the main color is blue, and maybe it's just from this design, and the heading looks too huge because previously we designed the style guides for the website for the desktop version, but now we need the heading one for the mobile version. Then we'll just go here, select, and the maximum we'll set to 48. Now it looks completely different and looks really beautiful. Change the spacing between elements to 4. Set the alignment to 40, let's imagine like this, and here we'll have the button. And everything should be auto layout, of course. You see, how cool is that? When you know all this step by step, feature by feature, you get all the knowledge about Figma, you master the tool, and when you mastered the tool, you become more creative. That's really important. You become efficient, more creative, and because you're more creative, more efficient, you know how to do all this and that, you also become more confident as a designer. Enjoy, just go and do all these exercises that we just discussed here. Little by little in the future, I will add some additional lessons to this module, but we already covered like almost everything. at least the most important things, like 90%, 95% of the most important things we already covered in this module. In the future lessons of this module, I want to show you a couple of shortcuts that you can use, like hotkeys that you can use for this and that, for typography, for alignment, for changing the sizes. For example, if you want to change the size without, using your, I don't know, like mouse, or without changing something here, how to do this and that element look different just by using keyboard. This will make you even more efficient, much faster. And then you will be able to design lots of stuff even during the meetings. I remember those days when I sat in the meeting, and while we discussed something, I already designed what we discussed, and by the end of the meeting we had the finalized design, because we were able to discuss the stuff we were thinking about, the idea, about the strategy, about the solution all together, who were responsible for the project. And I designed that project, and once I started creating something, they're like, yeah, and then this, and we created more and more and more. This is super powerful for hackathons. If you're participating in hackathons, I remember I participated in a couple, and it was just mind-blowing when you are super fast in design, and you can create design immediately while you're discussing it. So then developers have more time for development, and you have more time to analyze your ideas once again and apply some changes. And when you know components, when you know auto layout, when you know styles, man, even if you want to change something, you will be able to do that in just one click. This is how powerful Figma is. This is how powerful you as a designer become. So just go through all these lessons that we just covered in this module. Practice all these things, because they give you the fundamentals, the base. It's not basic. It's fundamental. Basic is just the surface. Fundamental is when you have something below the surface that holds everything that you will build on top. So go practice, because in the next modules we will just create. We will not stop on shortcuts, on hotkeys, on styles and everything. We'll just create. And I'll be using hotkeys, and I'll be just doing, and we'll be telling what I'm doing. But you will follow that. You will go with me only if you master these lessons that we covered in this module already. So my recommendation to you, go and rewatch them. If you forgot something about constraints, go and rewatch the lesson about constraints. If you forgot something about auto layout, go and rewatch the lesson about auto layout. Woo! Cool! Awesome! I'll be super happy to see you in the next modules of this course, where we'll start creating, practicing, and oh my god, this will be so much. But can you imagine how much you already know, how much you already learned from this course? The more, the better, the more creative you become, the more efficient, the faster, the quicker, and the more confident. All right, wishing you all the best in your design career, in your life. That's not the end, that's just the beginning. But at least that's the end of the main fundamentals of the Figma. See you in the next lesson.